Greetings, everyone. We are on our countdown to the top 10 questions asked of me over the last 10 years, I guess you'd say. And this next one, we are on number 5, which is, did Hitler use frequency for bad purposes? Without further ado, let me share screen and let's find out the answer to that question. Okay. Gonna have to move myself again. All right, let's go forward. All right. I've done a lot of research on this, watched a lot of movies, documentaries, read some papers, just because I was curious. I'm like, people are going to say things. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to take people's word. I'm going to go find out for myself because that's just the kind of person I am. But if we go back and we look at the time of Hitler, amplification was in the very early stages and sounded horrible. The tonal quality of sound systems was scratchy, edgy, and would not have sounded pleasant at any given time. Hitler played music and Nazi propaganda over loudspeakers 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. Blaring megaphones and speaker systems were in their infancy. Early amplification made music sound like it was going through a megaphone, like cheerleaders use at a football game. Sure, you've all been at football games and you've heard the cheerleaders yelling chants and getting everyone to yell them back. Such devices are meant for voices, not music. Now, they had good recording, well, sort of things back at the time of Hitler, but to amplify it out to an audience, it just would have not sounded good. Hitler's projectile sound system had similar annoying capabilities. There is zero credible evidence that Hitler did anything to change the concert pitch to A440. It was already an industry standard in the USA in the early 1900s. Britain's pitch was at about 439. Europe, anywhere between 430, 432, 436. Some of them were still in the 450 range, which is above, because they chose pitch based on, higher pitches you can hear better than lower pitches. It's just the nature of it. And the other thing, I'm going to bring this in every video because we forget, intent determines an outcome. Hitler's intent was to brainwash the German people. He used music to do it, but he used everything else too. What did he actually do? He spread propaganda through school indoctrination, flyers and booklets to the public, and gave lots of free things to people so they'd like him, such as free vacations. Oh, well, here, go to this resort. And then they would have to go listen to all these speeches and do all these things, but they really didn't get much of a vacation. So he paid them to go, he gave them free vacations so that he could brainwash them. They got out of their homes. I guess that's what they wanted. Wherever you went, there were notices, books, all kinds of crazy things, posters, signs, the Nazi flags, everything was spouting the Nazi ideals. Hitler allowed only the music of Wagner and other German, especially if they were anti-Semite, composers and musicians. If you were not of that, what he called the Germanic race, you were banned. Your music was banned. He banned Jewish and Russian musicians and composers, as well as others. Hitler controlled all art, music, theater, radio, what was in the museums. He had things that was called degenerate art, which they would take out of the museums, and then they started giving to everybody in their group. And I'm sure that you've probably seen documentaries that some of that art is still missing and is now being given back because they took all the artwork from all the Jews that they had and gave it away, even if it was really expensive art. Lyrics, here we're back to lyrics. Lyrics to specifically picked German songs were laced with Nazi propaganda. Their zero evidence pitch was controlled. For example, this is another thing that people keep telling me, that the Rockefellers and Hitler had something to do with changing the pitch to A440. Well, I don't know how they could have done that when it was already being used at the turn of the century in the 1900s, like 1901. I mean, I have a saxophone that was built in 1905 that's in 440 concert pitch. And that was, pretty early. Anyway, we'll leave that alone. Okay, so music and how music and propaganda was used in Hitler's Germany. So kindergarten marked a clear opportunity for the state to sedulously, there's the word, promote Nazism through ideological texts. The task of music educators became similarly wrapped up with the National Socialist cause. You might want to check some of the public school curriculum in the year 2025. I'll just leave that truth bomb there for you to research on your own. The music of Hitler Youth played an important role in state indoctrination and public morale, and the visual arts thus validated and eulogized the idea of musical youth. Beyond mere imagery, National Socialist musical curricula dipped deep into the stream of German folk tunes because they were only allowed to use certain types of music, and it created a base of easily retained tunes onto which nationalistic texts could be sedulously placed. Said the word right this time. And I think we're going to go back to that one for a second. But this information came from an article that does not have an author on it, which I thought was strange, but it has all of the sources. It has a great bibliography. And I think the name of the text is listed in the heading here, and I can't read it because my share screen banner is in the way. That is the name of the paper, and you can Google the paper and you will find it. It's a PDF and it's 17 pages long, and there is a ton of bibliography at the end. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to move to the next slide. So you see that next we're going to talk in number 4 about the purposes of A432 and 444. So to wrap this up a little bit, music is only harmful if you want it to be. And I'm going to keep saying that. What is your intention for the music that you listen to? I mean, and if you read further along in that article, the interesting thing, and I may actually stick a link to that article in the below so that you can find it yourself, because I think it's only good to provide my sources. The interesting thing I'm finding in this is they start them young. And if you want to try to brainwash someone, you get them when they're kids. Then by the time they get to be our age, then you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. But the other thing is when they put Goebbels in charge, Goebbels was not a very smart man. There's no way that he would have known how or what to do to get the pitch changed to A440. But remember, we were already using it around the world. It's just that musicians got tired of every country, every region you went to having to use a different instrument because the concert pitch was different. We'll leave it at that. And then we'll see you in the next one where I talk about the purposes of 440 and 432. You'll be finding how interesting that really is. Okay, next time. See you then.